Well, welcome to another episode of Raw and Real with TJ and Jen. And today we're going to have a special guest with us, Mesquite and Hills Safe Haven Co. Our daughter, Miss Braylee Thomas.
What's up, guys?
Normally behind the scenes.
Yeah, she's normally the one doing our behind the scenes stuff and
I'm
everything.
always doing the producer work, so it's weird to be in front of the camera for once.
Mom's sad running her own two businesses, but hey.
Hey, it is what it is. News-wise, website's up and going. Podcasts are working on getting added to that. It's kind of a learn as we go kind of thing on that.
Sure.
And we do have a couple of blogs that are up and running, so we're excited about those.
And Braylee's will be up tomorrow.
Yes.
Yep.
Or
It's already up there now.
Oh.
okay. So
Because I was fiddling with it. I needed something to kind of play with while I was building the website.
Yeah.
So it just stayed on
it stayed on there. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's
So
fun.
there's 3 blog posts.
3
actually.
blog posts.
So
So
check
yeah.
them out for sure. Men's meeting this
Yes.
Saturday.
This Saturday.
Cannot believe it's already here. This Saturday morning at 9 a.m. at Crusher's.
At Crusher's Coffee Shop right there on the main street, or not on Main Street, but the main street coming up to Tahoka from Lubbock. So we're excited about that.
Be a good time for sure. Kind of wish I could go.
Then you've got your ladies meeting on the 10th, that Monday.
Yep.
It's coming up Monday night.
And we will be in Clayton, New Mexico again on Sunday.
Yeah.
So busy weekend, and we're excited about it.
Yeah.
I think, what else? we
Lots
have?
of good stuff going on
Lots
right
of
now.
good things. It's been really busy this week because
Yeah.
I've had photo shoots on the weekend, so I got to go into the week editing 2 different sessions, and then got a YouTube page trying to get up and going, which is different for me, kind of scary
Yeah.
branching out, but exciting nonetheless. And
Good.
I'm not typically a YouTuber. It's usually my friends who are watching YouTube. I usually go to my shows or Netflix, anything else.
Yeah,
So,
I'm not a YouTube fanatic either, but
no. But I
it's
think
been
that's
good
gonna,
for this platform. But
Yeah.
I think that's really the only thing that I've ever watched on there is maybe that and Dude Perfect.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, that's the one thing we
That's
got
about
started
it.
on was
Yeah.
Dude Perfect over there, and
That's true. I watch a few influencers, but
Yeah.
again, just not many. I don't know. I think it's gonna help me in the long run though, because I'm not constantly on there.
I think it's a generational thing. Like the boys are both really into YouTube.
Yeah.
which we have to stay on top of all
Yeah,
the time.
I don't know. Maybe it's a maturity thing. Maybe it's just what was really big when they turned into that preteen teenager type thing. I don't know.
Well, I mean, we didn't even have Facebook at the beginning in our childhood. I mean, I remember when, what was that? MySpace.
I didn't even have.
And
one
I
of
didn't even
those.
have that. And you mention that now, and people are like, I don't even know what that is. So, but it just wasn't a thing. Which we didn't have smartphones either.
Mm-mm.
No, I had to share a phone. Well, I guess I got my own line in my room when
Yeah.
I was 15, maybe. I think that was just because my parents were tired of me being on their phone all the time.
Well, it wasn't even just that. I mean, they were just so expensive. I mean, cell phones back then and the data plans and all that were like out of this world. And that's where the whole pandemic of shorthand came in, because I think there for a long, the texts were charged by the word.
Well, I don't remember even texting until we lived in Ballinger.
Okay.
That was the first time I remember texting, and I had to be careful how much I could text.
Yeah.
Because at that time on our plan, texting was extra.
Oh, yeah.
So I remember texting then. Like when I was in high school, I had a bag phone, and I could only use it in an emergency. Like I couldn't call and check in with it. I couldn't call. Like we only had like 60 minutes a month. Like that's an hour.
Oh, yeah.
A month. So I just was never allowed to use it. And then my senior year, I got a little Nokia phone, and it was kind of the same. It was a little more lenient, but it was not like glued to me like our phones are now.
Yeah, you talk about bag phones. I remember when my grandparents got one, and it was even weird to me because growing up, Dad ranched and farmed with the family, business.
Mhm.
They had the CBs that had the keypad on them, and he could call home, and I thought that was neat. Well, then I remember when my grandparents got the Motorola bag phones, and you did not use them. I mean, it was super expensive. It was only if you broke down or surely had to, because you did not use them for anything.
No, now they're glued to us. They're our camera, they're our alarm, they're our
podcast. We're working on moving into the world of computers over here, but
where we write our blogs, where we take our notes. I mean, they're everything now, so it's crazy to see how that's evolved. But
and now they're even using them in school. Like computers are a big part of schools, and they're cutting textbooks out. And
I don't even know if books are a thing anymore.
I think they still are in some places.
But so many textbooks are digitized now.
Yeah.
Like, I've got a friend in college right now, and she's doing, she's going into the medical field, and most of her stuff is done off of her either tablet, which I think was school assigned, or her personal laptop. And then there's another one who's going into agriculture, and she posted on Instagram, I think, it was a story, and she had gotten Sonic and was studying in her car on her tablet. It was highlighting stuff on her tablet.
Wow.
See, I would have never made it, because in nursing school, my books were highlighted from front to back.
Like my
if
Bible.
I read it, I highlighted it, because everything was important to me, and that's not a good way to be, but I was like, oh my goodness, for sure this is what's going to be on the test, for sure, and it never was, ever, but I'm a highlighter. If I've highlighted it, it kind of sticks with me a little bit.
Yeah.
So I don't think I would have made it. And I have a Kindle that I can read on, but I don't like to read books like my Bible and stuff like that on there because I can't highlight. You can, but it's not the same.
It's weird you bring that up because I mentioned the Bible app the other day.
Yeah.
Excuse me, and it actually has on there where you can highlight it in different colors. Like you have, like the full color scheme that you have when you're making a story or whatever. You can actually go in there and highlight on that Bible app and bookmark pages and everything else. So
I might try that.
I'm trying not to use it a lot, but like a lot of times I may be up earlier than most.
Yeah.
And instead of, getting my Bible out and turning pages and all that, and a lot of times will go in there and then I will go back and find it back in my Bible and transfer it over. But it's a good segue into our topic today, because one thing I wanted to touch on, and it's kind of becoming a more popular, is homeschool. Mm-hmm. I remember when we were in Ballinger, some people we were there, with, they were doing the whole homeschool thing, but they had to keep massive records in case they got audited. Well, anymore, and especially since the pandemic, like they've become more lenient. But Braylee was kind of in on that in our beginning stages. For those of you that don't know, our youngest was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at age 6, and it was that summer right before the school was fixing to start. We gave them the option. We're going to homeschool Brant. Do you and Brayson want to try it too? And y'all's response was pretty much for it. I think we were going to try it.
Yeah.
And
Brayson especially, because he kind of struggled.
Yes.
In school, he didn't struggle, and then when he started struggling, it's like we couldn't get him caught up.
Well, the school system, in my opinion, at the time, they were so wrapped up in this test. And they only had a certain amount of time to prepare these kids for this test. And if they didn't pass the test, it not only, hurt them locally, but, state and federal wise as also, they had to keep the numbers up. They had to look good. They had to do this. And when you got kids like Brayson that just didn't grasp it at first, they fall behind.
It made me sad because Brayson was truly one of those kids that fell through the crack.
Yeah. He was.
He was A's and B's all year long and doing great. And then that last 6 weeks, I don't really know what happened. I have my own theories, but I won't get into that because it's ugly. he had done so well and excelled so much, and in that last 6 weeks, it was like he was kind of dropped.
Yeah.
And so she decided she was going to hold him back.
Right.
Well, first of all, no. So you have to advocate for your kids. And I was up there every day. I was not in my walk like I am now. And things got very heated and very ugly multiple times. But it was like our school let them out on Mondays at 2:00.
Right.
So the kids that were behind could have tutorials.
Yes.
Monday afternoons. I dropped them off every morning. I picked them up. I went to every parent-teacher conference that was had. She never said anything. So the last 2 weeks of school, she decides she's going to fail him. He's made A's and B's all year. And
right.
Now you're telling me he has a 45 in math? I just have a hard time with that. Like, why do you let them fall through the cracks? If you're having trouble or you're seeing a child struggle, then let's fix it. Let's get them the help they need. Talk to the parents. We were never spoken to about that.
No.
And it's like, well, he's kind of struggled all year. He's had A's and B's all year, and every time I've met with you, he's done great. He's a great student. He's a great kid. He's really grasping. So you spring stuff on people, and I just really think it's important to advocate for your kids because there's always an underlying thing there. So just advocate for your kids. If something's not adding up, question. And you don't have to be mean. You don't have to be, it's not the teacher's fault, but there is a lack of communication, and that falls somewhere within.
Yes.
Well, my whole thing was I always struggled in school in a lot of areas because they thought I had ADD. It was really not ADD. They got to where they pinned down on everything. And I don't buy into that. It's just, as a child, I was developing at my own rate. I would daydream or I would be in different places because I am truly, and I know this now, I am a unique individual. I see things differently than most. You put me in a room with 50 guys and I am going to be in that bottom 1% on any quiz because I see things differently. Because of the way I believe that God created me and the job that I was created to do. And in saying that, I feel like that's the problem with a lot of these kids is you're shoving, in most schools like where we are, in classes of 15 to 20 is pretty much a full class. And I guarantee you, nobody in there is being able to be an individual. They're having to learn it a certain way, do it a certain way, and if their brain doesn't process it that way, they're gonna fail. And, I never wanted to have to raise our kids the way that me and you, Jennifer, had to be brought up. Our parents did the very best they could. It took 2 incomes, and it still does. However, at that time, the amount of, I guess you would say working from home, there wasn't a lot of options, truly, like there is now. And so they had to send us to school and everything else. And so I wanted to be able to raise our kids together in a family unit and hopefully give them a better shot.
Right.
And that was already leading up. And then when he got diagnosed, it kind of was a pushover for me. Nothing against the school nurse and everything else, but we almost lost Brant twice in the months after his diagnosis, getting home from the hospital, the whole 9 yards. And so I was edgy. I didn't want to send him up there because, he was, very volatile at that time in figuring things out.
Yeah, and she was very honest.
Yeah.
She was spread thin between 3 campuses. She was like, there's no guarantee that I can be there.
Right.
And she's a great person, wonderful person.
Family
she was
friend.
Just spread far too thin.
Right.
And she was very transparent and open and honest with us about that. I think that helped determine some of our decision. On top of the fact that Brant absolutely hated school.
Yeah.
He
was in the
has
nurse's
some
office.
PTSD about it, and I think another way we didn't advocate for him is because he was starting these symptoms that year. And us as parents and, of course, his teacher was like, he's just being a 4-year-old. He's just being a 5-year-old. You know, this is how they do. They don't want to sit still. And we make fun of him now because it's kind of funny looking back. It was not funny at the time, but, you know, he always had to go to the bathroom. And he would say, it's just my body. It's just my body. But the teacher was like, he's got to sit still. Like, he was already developing that anxiety of being away because he didn't feel right, but he didn't know how to express that he didn't feel right. He just expressed it that I don't want to be here. Didn't want to be away from TJ at all. And so you're like, it's just a baby. Separation anxiety, you know. He didn't like daycare when he went to daycare.
I was gonna say, yeah.
2 times he went because he absolutely wouldn't go.
Which is crazy because he's so social. Like,
yes.
He loves meeting people. He loves talking to anybody who will come around. But, like, he hates being away from you guys. But, like, he would thrive at, like, kids camp.
Yeah.
Or something of that nature.
And, you know, we would go to his teacher meetings. And I'm like, you know, is he a clown here? Because he's a clown at home. He's always funny. And she's like, no, he doesn't. He doesn't talk. He doesn't speak. He just goes to the bathroom every 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Why that didn't red flag back then, I don't know, but it didn't.
Me, honestly, because I went through that. I was one of those, and I still am. I don't sit still very well. I don't. And I remember always kind of having that discussion with Mom and Dad. We'd go to a restaurant, and I'd want to, you know, go to the restroom. And I think it was just because I wanted to feel big, and I wanted to be able to go on my own in public places and things like that. So that's why I never paid attention to it. And I was probably the lead advocate getting on to him for that reason, you know, be like, no, you need to sit down and like finish your dinner and things like that. And so he would keep telling me. So when it did come through with the diagnosis, I felt pretty small and I felt bad.
And I know, like, we're going to talk about college here, but it's just a true way of breaking into advocating for your kids.
Yes.
That doesn't stop when college age gets here. Because it's not my decision whether they go to college or not. It's not my decision where they go. It's not my decision when they go. But you still have to be that advocate because no matter which path they choose, I feel like adversity comes in.
Yeah.
The one generation is like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're not going to college. And then the other generation is like, oh my gosh, you're so far behind.
Yeah. There's no in between, really.
So you're still advocating for your kids, and I think it started when we were in public school, and we're still continuing to advocate for our kids as college age.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, it's been difficult so far because already in high school, you know, if you don't learn on their curve, you're already behind. Like, I remember I think it was probably my sophomore year is when a lot of my friends started taking chemistry. I didn't take chemistry, I took marine biology, of all things. It was what I was interested in at the time. And I got to choose my science through the program that we chose. And everybody's like, well, you need to be taking chem and doing all the labs, and like, they were learning all the elements, and I knew all the species of creatures that are on the ocean floor. Yeah. And there were times when I was, you know, well, I am falling behind. I'm not doing Algebra 1 in sophomore year, which should have already been done according to the school. Yeah. But I hated math. I still do. It's ridiculous to me. I understand the basics. I feel like that's good enough.
I've never had to use an algebraic equation in anything I've done, and I'm 43 years old.
Exactly.
And I've never used it. Granted, I haven't gone into any, you know, huge fields that might require it, but I've never used it. In fact, I couldn't work out a simple, you know, 8th grade algebra problem right now if I had to.
Exactly. I couldn't either. It's not my thing. It never has been. But at the same time, there were times when I thought, oh, I'm falling behind. I'm totally behind. Crazy. I'm never going to be as smart as these kids. I'd go up and have a conversation, and it still shocks people. I don't know why this word is so big to people, but I use the word cathartic a lot. Mm-hmm. For those of you who are like, don't know what that is, it's just, it calms you, it's soothing to you, it's that kind of thing.
And she does use it
all the time.
It's like, I think it's like one of your top used words.
It really
Well,
is.
you have to understand, this girl at 18 months would carry on a complete sentence with anybody at church, on the street, wherever. And so we've never really worried about her, so to speak, or I never did, because I knew, like, you had the intelligence. And so I didn't really pay attention when you were in public school, because I knew most of the time you were going to figure it out. If you couldn't, you would get the help you needed. And so, you know, we've had a full range between the three of them, from pretty much can handle whatever comes her way to needs a ton of help, you know, all the way to our little one that just, I don't even know where to start, because he was closed off on multiple levels, in my opinion. And so we did catch a lot of slack when we made this decision, because around here, it's still the southern, I don't even know what you would want to call it, the old way of doing things, where like you go to school, you go to college, you get a job, or you take over the family business, and the cycle repeats. They get married, they 9 times out of 10 wind up back here working for dad, and it's kind of the ongoing, you know, cycle. And we were, and still are, pretty different here in our area.
And there was a lot that went into that. It really wasn't just him. It was, we wanted to travel. We wanted to give our kids experiences. Mount Rushmore is probably my biggest thing, is because I saw it in textbooks all my life. It's always been a monument. Never wanted to go there. You know, never wanted to do that. But then when you get there and you see it, you're just like, why did I never want to do this? Why did I never want to come here? And so, in Washington, D.C. was the same way. I never had a desire to go to Washington. And they had those trips when I was in school, like if you were smart, which I didn't get much to school. I didn't like school.
I hated
the fact
school.
that I graduated college is a shocker.
Well, that was the thing. When I was young, I loved school. I loved it. Like, there would be times when I would be sick and I would pretend to be okay just so I could go to school. Mom would have to keep me home. But the thing with public school, and I really notice it now, is how much they limit kids. They're so structured in teaching the test, and you have to go by their ways. It's not, here's a problem, figure it out yourself. It's, no, you have to figure it out this certain way to get to this answer. It's not, well, I did it this different way, and I got the same answer.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. No.
I don't know how many times me and you kind of had that debate over homework.
Yeah.
Because you would be stumped, and I would sit down and I would figure it out, and you'd be like, well, I can't turn that in because that's wrong. And I'm like, no, it's not. This is the way it's taught. Like, this is the way I was taught in school. And you're like, no, we have to show our work, and we have to do it this way, and we've got to come up with how we got the answer. And it came to me, how you got the answer was way more important than getting the answer.
Yes. It could have been completely wrong, but
Exactly.
as long as you used their system, it was fine. But that didn't even truly make me too horribly mad, because you and Mom really helped me figure out, in a sense, my own way of getting there.
And that was kind of before the new math took over, too.
Yeah.
So we
We
weren't
were kind of on that.
as into it as they are now.
No.
Yeah. But what really frustrated me at the time, and this was, I don't know, 3rd grade, because it was the last year that I was in post, in 3rd grade. They wouldn't let me go above a certain reading level, and I was a huge reader. I still am. I love my books. I've got tons of bookshelves full. And I was just always a fairly decent reader. I'd go through the, 2nd grade level books in less than a week. I'd go through about 5 books a week in the library.
Yeah.
And they would never let me go above my reading level.
Right.
I was about 2 grades above. I wanted to go another one, and they wouldn't let me.
Yeah.
Because that would have been considered high school level at the time. And
Which
I
is
remember-
dumb. I mean, why do we have levels of reading? I mean, I understand if you're a child, little, kindergarten, pre-K, I get that. Like, there's certain criterias. But you would think by the time they hit a certain, whatever you want to put the age mark at, that you could just let them go. Because I had a couple of kids in my school that were geniuses. And I mean, literally geniuses. This kid ate, slept, and breathed knowledge. And was not into sports, was not into extracurricular, he was just literally a genius. And nobody ever held him back. Nobody ever stopped him. So where did that begin and why?
I really don't know.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah, that was one of my first freedoms that I loved in homeschool because I started homeschooling. I had just gotten done with 5th grade, so I was going into my 6th grade year. I was in middle school. And I went to Mom and I was like, there's this book being turned into a movie. It was Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. And I said, I want to read it. And she said, okay. So we went out and we got the book. Everybody was appalled that she let me read that book.
Right.
Because it was
shame
so
is real people.
Yeah. Because it was so mature and so advanced, but I loved that book. I still love it to this day. And it really resonated with me. And that was the first romance novel that I ever picked up. I mean, it's not like you let me read 50 Shades of Grey for the first time.
But had we, what difference does it make?
I cannot tell you what you enjoy reading. I'm that way.
Mm-hmm.
If a book doesn't catch me within the first couple pages, I'm not going to finish that book.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like that in school, and they made me read all that crap
Yeah.
that I didn't like, I didn't enjoy.
Right.
And I never felt like it was fair to you to not let you explore. How do you know what you don't like?
That's true.
Because I didn't like anything I was made to read, so I didn't like books forever. I've just really gotten into reading in the past maybe a couple of years that I really enjoy reading. Because of that, I think it's because I was made to read crap that did not interest me. So how can I tell you what's going to interest you?
And like
I have
book
no
reports.
idea.
We were talking about that.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
Like book reports. And it wasn't about your interpretation or what you got. Or to me, they never cared about what I got out of the book.
No.
I had to answer their pre-lined questions on what I was supposed to get out of that book.
Yeah. Well, that's another way that I guess broke the system a little bit, if you will. In 4th grade, it was my 5th grade, something. Anyways, I was in public school, and it was here where we are now in Tahoka, and she gave us reading quilts.
Yeah.
And it would break down, what's this main character's main goal in the book? What's keeping them from getting that goal? How do they achieve that goal?
Yeah.
And that's what got me through a lot of my high school years, and what I couldn't, everybody I knew hated book reports. And they were the easiest thing ever for me, because I knew I could BS my way out of it.
Yeah.
But everybody hated it. I was like, all you have to do is break it down to that. Your first paragraph is what this character wants, your second paragraph is how they're not getting it, and your third paragraph is the conclusion of the book and how they got it. If you know those 3 things, you're fine through every book report you'll ever give. And I remember helping one of my friends. It was our senior year, but she was taking college classes already and getting credits. She was doing the dual credit. And she had to go in and read a part of some novel or short story by this one author, and then she had to go and give a detailed paragraph on why she wrote the way she wrote. I was like, well, there's your opening. That's so easy. They're asking you for your opinion and a few facts thrown in there.
Yeah.
That's the easiest thing
I
you
could
can
give
do.
you my opinion, but I don't remember our opinion ever being asked.
It was never asked for me.
But you couldn't copy the book either. And I'm
No.
like, the book's this thin. How do you want me to write what it was about without rewriting the book? Because you want 3 pages.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. How do you view Mom's and myself approach to, helping y'all get out and be your own person? I mean, as far as not going to public school, not forcing you into college, which I think is a lot that we get ridiculed for.
Yeah.
Especially around here, because you're supposed to do things a certain way. A lot of older generational issues that are rising in our area, because that's just what it's made up mostly of. So, I mean, what's your outtake on that? What's your overall viewpoint?
At first
No hurt feelings. We're not like that.
No,
I don't care.
Raw and as real as it gets.
Well, I feel like we've already talked about this so much, because college for me was so back and forth. I felt the need to go because everybody else in my age is going.
Right.
But then at the same time, I didn't know what for. Like at 15, I thought I was going to be a forensic scientist.
Mhm.
That's nowhere in the equation now.
Then marine biology was a
Then
huge thing.
I was going to be a marine biologist. I still kind of want to do that. But, I mean, there's so many different things that I wanted to do, and I didn't want to go through the rigmarole like everybody else. And there were times when I would have thought it was easier had you and Dad been making me go to college. Like, it would have been a kick in the butt, being like, okay, well, I have to go. But it was never like that. It's like, well, it's your decision. I'm like, well, that helps me. It doesn't help me at all in making this decision. But at the end, I'm really glad that I'm not, because I've been able to truly focus on building a business. Like, what 18-year-old can come and say, yeah, I'm building my business from the ground up. And as soon as I say that, everybody looks at me like I'm crazy. I've gotten so used to it now.
Same.
Everybody's just like, well, you should be in college. Like, you could go and get a business degree. That's the first thing everybody says to me. Go and get your business degree. Why do I need a business degree when I'm learning it already? I've already learned how to promote myself. And there are so many platforms to do that now that most business degrees have a thing where you go and take like this Instagrammer course to promote yourself on all of these different social media platforms. I've already got that pretty much figured out. They're like, well, you need to know how to manage your money. I've been managing money since I was 16 years old. And
That was one of the things that we truly incorporated, because that was something I didn't learn in school.
Right.
And I was a mess for a long time. Like, I always had a job, and I always had to manage my money because I had to pay my bills. I had bills to pay at home. My car payment, my insurance, anything that came with that. Gas, if I wanted to go anywhere, was on me. And so that is one thing that I truly wanted to incorporate in our homeschool rather than algebra.
Yeah, and that helped me in the long run, because I've got a ton of friends and family members that are my age that have no idea how to manage their money. They're like, I'm, 30 grand in the hole. Or they've had mom and dad provide things for so long that they're just now coming into their own kind of money, and they don't know what to do with it. When there's me, who's been, okay, got a paycheck of $100, well, 50 goes back into savings, 20 goes to paying bills, and 10 is mine to spend.
Yeah.
And I know that's probably completely wrong. I just did the math in my head. There's still money left over. Anyways.
I didn't say we had a master, folks.
But you get the
I
gist
just said
of things.
we tried. We were just shooting for podium here.
Well, that was my whole thing with college, I guess, because I never went.
Mm-hmm.
I never knew what I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
13 years old, I'm infatuated with rodeo.
Mm-hmm.
I never wanted to go work for somebody to make them rich.
Yeah.
Well, I was just a number. I didn't see the point in killing myself for somebody else. If I was going to be putting that amount of energy and effort into something, I wanted it to be making myself better.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing was the student loans. I had seen too many times and been around too many people that went to med school, let's say, for example, and their first 2 years out, they're not even paying back their student loans. They're just doing residency and things. They're not even drawing a real paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're going to spend the next 30 years paying all that back on top of everything else. And I never understood why you wanted to start out your life in the hole, that far in the hole.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it gets down to the point where like phone calls and, they'll hound you for those student loans.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably worse than credit card debt, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. It was bad because I have a friend and she was kind of conflicted like me, but her parents were a bit more, structured. So they were like, you need to go have a fallback, whatever. She's going into the medical field, and senior year, like, she was killing herself to get all of these scholarships lined up.
Yeah.
Academic, extracurricular, whatever it took just to go her first year.
Yeah.
Like, that was crazy to me. And about that time, I was pretty sad. I was like, okay, you know what, I'll go to WT. The only reason I wanted to go to that college, it was the only one that stuck out to me, it's because it was far enough away from home without being crazy far away from home, and that was it. I didn't have anything else planned. I was just like, you know what, I'll go and start my basics, whatever. I'll choose later down the road. Tons of people do that. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I had no plans for a degree. I just wanted to go to get out of town.
Yeah.
That was it. That's all I wanted.
I can see the benefit in some social interaction, like living in the dorms, meeting new people. Like, there is some pluses in that. I mean, no doubt about it. But to me, those positives never outweighed the negatives that followed it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, in all honesty, you don't expect a 13-year-old to have their life figured out. But in my opinion, that's exactly what we're doing to our kids, because they literally have to start working towards their end goal at 12, 13, 14 years old.
Freshman year, possibly.
Yeah, they have to have it figured out. And there is nobody out there, like, if I own my own business outright, like a big trucking business, my son is 13, my youngest. You think I'm going to leave him in charge of this business tomorrow? Because I guarantee you, he doesn't have the life knowledge that I do. I know from, 10 years of owning my own trucking business, what doesn't work, what you have to do to keep everything running, what areas you can smudge, what areas you can't, things like that. So there's no way I would put that amount of pressure on a 13-year-old, but yet that's what we're doing. And I guess that's why it was so important to us when we would sit down with these kids when we first started this homeschool and way of viewing things. It was so important to us that we taught them life, things that they're going to be able to use in life no matter what. That was very, very much important in our curriculum, so to speak. It wasn't sticking with the status quo. Anywhere we go, funerals, weddings, whatever, like, we still get asked all the time, what grade are they in? And I was like, we don't really have a grade system.
I just always went off with my age. I was like, well, it's technically my sophomore year. But all of my curriculums were different. Like, reading level, when I was freshman, my reading, I was already at a senior level.
Right.
Yes.
So I was, like, done with reading and English by the time I was, 14. But then, like, math, I was still at a 6th grade level, sadly. I mean, it's just where I was. I hate math. I loathe it, so I put it off. But then, like, my sciences were always good. I was about that range, so I never knew what to tell people. So I just always went with my age group.
Yeah.
Just because it's so much easier than trying to explain.
Well, it's like I always told them, I was like, we do a continued school. I don't set anything in front of them that says, okay, we're working on 5th grade math, like, whatever. We start and just keep rolling. And as they get it, we just keep advancing. And we have always tried to do it like that. Because I don't see the point in keeping them in rhythm. If the kid's on a roll, keep them moving. Yes. Keep them moving. They're learning, it's new, it's fresh. That was always, and it still is, a big, conversation in public school. Are these summer breaks interfering with their learning? Like, do they go forget it? We got to have some refreshers as we come back, and is it slowing things down? And I think by us doing it this way, we just keep it rolling, Yeah.
It was easier for us because, like, there were times, I remember when we very first started out, we're very close with my mom's mom. I mean, we will go and practically live with that woman. We did not too long ago. We stayed for almost 3 weeks. And we did that through the school year, which was crazy to people. I remember going to the grocery store with Nana all the time, and people asking, well, did you get taken out early? What? No, we're homeschooled. It's just us. But we'd take that week off and then come back and be fine. But we didn't feel like we were just hounding on school 24/7. And it was the same way when we were on the road. We wouldn't do conventional school every single day on the road. And for a long time, that felt weird to me because, you see all of these other kids going and staying in school for 8 hours, and it feels like you're being left behind. But it moved us forward so much. Like, my history knowledge is crazy. Like, I still think it's the neatest thing. We went to Gettysburg, learned so much about the Civil War and all of that things. Got to stand on the spot where Lincoln delivered the Gettysburg Address.
Yep.
2 days later, we go to the Smithsonian and we get to see the desk where he wrote the Gettysburg Address.
Yeah.
Which is this crazy full circle to me. And, like, it's amazing. Like, Brant, while we were at the Capitol, he had studied the back of all of Mom and Dad's money
Yes.
and knew the name of every single building that we passed.
Yes.
He's like, hey, that's the Jefferson Memorial. Hey, that's the Capitol building. That's
Yeah.
the White House. That's
At
the
like
Treasury.
9.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
he
was
was 9.
little, and he knew everything. And
Yeah.
Brayson was on there. I mean, he loved it. Like, he knew the street names. He's great at maps. He knew the way around Washington, D.C.
That was where it clicked with me on Brayson when we took him out. You know, he was struggling that last 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't struggling.
No.
That kid is so smart.
He's wicked smart.
He's not behind. He's like 100 steps ahead,
Yeah.
and he doesn't know how to back up.
Mm-mm.
Like, he doesn't know how to, okay, well, nobody else is there yet, so let me just dumb myself down. He does not get that, and that's where he was struggling at when we pulled him out of
Mm-hmm.
that last 6 weeks that I fought tooth and nail for him. They were like, he's just slow. He's not slow.
No, he's not.
Like, he is a brainiac. Like,
Yes.
he's super smart, super intelligent. And when you tell him something, he's already 10 steps ahead of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well, we
so-
thought there for a minute it might have related back to when he was born, the actual day he was born. He had a little struggle breathing when he was delivered.
Mhm.
And it kind of scared us a little bit, and we thought, well, maybe there's some residual effects to that. But it had nothing to do with that.
No,
And-
it's
and-
the fact that he's way ahead of
Yeah.
you. You're sitting here talking like he's probably already moved on from this conversation.
Yeah.
If he was in here.
And
It's like,
it's
his brain never stops.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's great with stats. It doesn't matter if it's NASCAR, football, baseball.
he's got to memorize.
He knows where everything
And you
sits.
think he's not paying attention to you.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're talking to him,
Yeah.
it looks like you're talking to a blank
Wall.
wall.
Yeah.
And you kind of are because he's already thinking about
Yeah.
10 minutes ahead of you.
It's
Like
crazy.
he already knows everything you're gonna say, and he's thinking about his answer in the next 10 minutes
Yeah.
that it's gonna take me to get it out of my mouth.
Right.
And, you know, I remember Nana being so surprised one day. I don't know if she was here or, you know, we were over there and we had done school. I don't know. But one of the things that they said he was struggling with when he left school was addition and subtraction.
Yeah.
But Brayson's, he learns it backwards. So, like, in his subtraction, he does addition. Like, Dad's
Yes.
the one who went in and taught him this. So, you know, it's 15 minus 8. Well, how far from 8 do you have to count to get you to 15? That's your
Exactly.
answer.
Yeah.
And in public school, that was wrong. That's not how
Right.
we get the answer.
But that's the way we were taught.
Yeah. And that's the way he
You
learned
weren't?
it.
Maybe it was Dad, because Dad is a genius, and I know I just jumped in front, but you know, Dad's a genius in math, and maybe that was just him helping me back then.
See, and my dad was great at math, and like didn't even finish junior high. I don't think. I really don't think my dad graduated from junior high. I don't even know if he graduated, but math. I mean, he could tell you anything. He could guesstimate anything, and
Yeah.
he knew. I didn't get that, Gene. I can do it in my head, but don't ask me how I got you there.
Yeah. Well, you know, people are like, you need all of this education to be successful. You need so much to make a ton of money. Like, if you want to be rich, you have to be smart and all of this and da-da-da. You need your college degree. You need your master's, bachelor's, after graduate degree, whatever it is. You have to continue all this education. Pablo Escobar was one of the main cartel drug dealers in Colombia. Had millions and millions of dollars when he died. And do you know the education that he had? He didn't make it past 5th grade. He dropped out in 5th grade.
Wow.
And he had that business sense. And it's just, I'm like, it's obvious that you don't need all of this crazy stuff to be successful.
And now, you know, you're wanting to pursue your photography, which is, you know, excelled just in the last few months,
Yeah.
I think. There's so many things you can do online. You don't have to go have a degree.
No.
These people are putting on workshops.
Yeah.
There's a lady that I follow. Her name's Jennifer Allwood. She does business courses for women to stay at home and make money for their family, and multiple revenues of in-stream income is her main, you know, goal. and you can go pay $1,000 a year for this course without having to go get your English, your history, your math, all your basics that you're just wasting time, wasting money to do what you're already doing.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to go. You can go and get a degree in photography, and I thought, that'll be great. Minor in business, whatever. I wasn't going to get to touch anything near photography until my junior or senior year.
That's the way most colleges are. You spend about 2 years getting your basics and prereqs out of the way
And I'm just like,
before you ever work on
why
a
do
major.
I need history if that's not my degree? Why do I need all of these crazy maths when I'm never going to use it in my degree?
Yeah.
It's stupid. When I could go to a business school or a trade school, pay maybe $1,000. The most expensive I looked at was about $1,500.
Yeah.
And get that type of education
Yeah.
in whatever speed I wanted it to.
Yeah.
Because
and build yourself.
Yes. Because let's face it. Had I gone to college, I wouldn't have been able to do all the photo shoots that I've been able to do.
No, you've been too busy trying to work and
Exactly.
get your way through. Well, we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back with you. You're fine. I gotta figure this out.
To put them together.
Yeah.
Do you want to pause the video? I can't pause the video.
No, we're good. And we're back, guys. And you were getting into the whole lining your business out and trying to go to school would be impossible. I mean,
Yeah, it
there's
would
just
not have been possible because I'm working with I just did a photo shoot with a girl who is in college, and she was only able to get with me this past month barely because she only had a weekend off and could just do that. And I've got one calling me up now, and she's like, I know your books aren't open for then, but can we schedule it for sometime in November? Because that's the only time I can get a break.
right.
I'm like, they're so piled down with everything, whether it be extracurriculars, whether it be, just school in general, social life. There's so much going on that they have no time for themselves. And I would not have been able to do any of that had I been in school.
Well, you were on the back end when we got back together, so to speak, after dating in high school, and you still had a full load. I mean, really and truthfully, between your job and...
I really don't even know how I dated you at the time. And I think that was a lot of the trouble with the relationship I was in previous to that. I didn't have time.
Mhm.
I got up, I had clinicals at 5 a.m. and then I had class all day. And then as soon as I got out of class, I had a job.
Yep.
And it wasn't an excruciating job. I enjoyed my job. I worked for a pediatric clinic, but there were times I'd be up there till 7 or 8.
10.
Sometimes 10, if we had little emergencies come in.
Mm-hmm.
And I would always go with him to a C-section, so that would put me later. Cell phones weren't a thing back then.
Still
We
expensive.
had them, but we couldn't afford to talk all the time.
No.
Oh man, I really don't know how I did it. I just did it, I guess. And I was I don't think I put college down. I don't think I turned you away from it.
No.
But I was very blunt and honest that college is not on the movies.
No.
Oh, I'm at college and I get to go watch the leaves fall and I get to walk from class to class. It's not like that. That is not college. College to me was just an advanced version of high school.
Yeah, I've heard that from a
You
lot.
just had to show up and you had to take care of yourself. There wasn't a teacher saying, okay, Johnny, you got to get this assignment turned in. If it wasn't turned in, you failed.
They've already got your money.
Yeah,
They don't
pretty
care
much.
what
They
happens.
do not care.
Well,
You've already
They do
paid.
not care.
Yeah. Every
So-
person, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Every person I've asked, how are you liking college? I always ask that question. It's just a great conversation starter. Half of the people I talk to, they're like, I hate it. All of them. Every person I've talked to so far, other than the select few who are now in their advanced years of college, because I had so many friends that were a few years older than me. All of the freshmen hate it. I'm just like, then why are you there? If it's making you suffer, if this isn't truly what you want to do, why are you there? Because so many of their parents have put, and other people, society, have put this pressure on them that if you don't go to college, you're going to fail. But
I'm here to tell you you're going to fail whether you go to college or not.
Exactly. Well, I love the way Jim Carrey put it, and it's crazy because I legit, when I watched the video, thought he was gonna make a joke. He's known as a funny man, but he was legitimately serious at this college graduation, whatever. He says, you know, my father wanted to be a comedian like me, but went and got the 9-to-5 job, went to college, did all of this, became a great, you know, electrician or something of that accord, and he says 20 years later, he gets a notice that they're letting him go. Has no job.
Yeah.
He says, my father always told me, you know, if you're afraid of failure, at least go big. He says, because you can fail at even the mundane things. Yes. We're going to fail. It's biblical. We're human. There are going to be times. But we put such a stigma on failure that failure is wrong and failure is bad.
Yeah.
When in reality, failure can be good. Because whether you fail or succeed, you're going to learn something from it. Not Einstein, goodness gracious. I promise you guys I'm educated.
She's educated.
Thomas Edison, the man who invented the light bulb, tried 200 something, more than that, different ways to make a light bulb. He says, I didn't learn how to make a light bulb. I found out 200 different ways how to not make a light bulb.
Right.
And it's true. And I mean, take me for example. I was so adamant on going to school because I knew if I didn't start right after high school, I wouldn't go back.
Yeah.
And here I am, you know, 20 years later, and I'm not even using my degree.
Mm-hmm.
I have no desire to use my degree. I'm not saying it was a waste of time. I had some great years in my degree field. I loved it. I still...
You miss it. You like playing
Sometimes I do miss
Right.
it.
And it was for a specific time in our life. I mean, it really was there.
But I'm on the backlash end now
Right.
that I'm not advancing myself to be better. And I've tried to go back to school a couple of times. It was never what I wanted. It was what I felt like I had to do in order to advance in my career. And at the end of the day...
I know there was a time when it was like certain places that you worked, it was LVNs were not accepted.
Yeah.
You had to go, and it wasn't just RN. You had to go get your RN, and then you had so many years to get your, you know, your master's.
And it wasn't that I didn't love nursing. It just wasn't my true passion. I don't think it was my true calling. I think I operated in that calling when it was there, but now I'm on the other end of what you're starting to go through. It's like you wasted all this time and money, and now you're not even working in it.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's kind of like you're damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Yeah.
Yes.
I went to college, did the thing. My parents didn't make me go to college at all. Mom can probably get on here and tell you a better story about that, but as I was going to downplay myself for a boy, and she just wasn't having that. Like, she was like, I don't care what you do, but you're not going to downplay yourself. And so they never made me go to college, but I did, and I finished, and I got my degree, and I've worked my degree, and so now it's like, I had a hard time pushing you to college because A, it's crazy expensive.
Yeah.
If you have no idea what you want to do, it is mind-blowing to me that you're just going to make them go sit in a class.
Yes.
English, history, and go get your basics. Go get your basics. When you know that's not your true desire. And the second part was you've always been big into like the movies, and when you were younger it was High School Musical.
Yes.
And truly, like, Braylee likes to live that way.
Yeah.
Everything's a movie, everything's great, everything's good, she's got a good attitude. College is not that.
No.
It's not what you see in the movies, it's not what your fairy tales, it's hard work, it's a lot of work. And especially if you were already feeling like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Take a year off. think about it.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to go back next year, like if this isn't working
Yeah.
and you're not getting what you need, or you feel like you need something, or you truly decide what you want to do, then you can go.
Yes.
You don't have to start the day after high school ends like I did.
Yeah. And
So,
that's where I find out what's going to
I think as parents, and I think as sometimes grandparents, society, I think when you graduate high school, you are expected to know exactly what you're going to do, exactly how you're going to do it, and that's not true life.
I think a lot of that, like, I will bring my grandmother in for an example.
Yeah.
She's big on can't figure out why you don't want to go to college. Like,
Yeah.
why. But you have to kind of back up, grow up a little bit, and think on a level of where she's coming from.
Yes.
Because at her time, she graduated early, went to tech at like 16.
Yeah.
You have to understand, she probably doesn't understand it to the fact of we have too many platforms nowadays in order to make a living.
Yes.
Platforms back then were very, very few and far between, and still I would say at their time at least 60 to 70% of their income relied on manual labor.
Yep.
Of some degree. There wasn't the amount of white collar type jobs the way there is now.
Mm-hmm.
I would say now we probably are less than 50% in this country depending on manual labor.
Yeah.
Excuse me, and still trying to force it out.
Yeah.
You look at people that are in like construction, or you look at people that are in, anything where you're going to go out there and get nasty. Those people are looked down upon. They are looked at as the lower class of people, when they're the very ones out there that are, keeping this world turning. Not the white collar. Because, folks, let's get real. If we didn't have the blue collar guys, there would be no white collar jobs. There would be no avenue for you to be able to do that. And so I think that's why she has such a hard time and gives us such a hard time when we're around, is because it truly is mind-blowing that Braylee can sit in her room for 6 hours and probably make about $30,000 if she's in the right demographic of whatever she's in. I mean, you were just talking about the lady that's doing online seminars for knowledge at $1,000 a pop.
They're billionaires.
Absolutely.
And so they got more money in their bank account sitting in bed drinking a cup of coffee, shooting emails, forwarding emails, replying to emails in 4 hours than it took me out there working for, Joe Doe's oilfield service all day long, coming in nasty, sweaty, greasy, dirty. Been there, done that.
Yep.
For $8, $9, $10 an hour.
I mean, you look at Dude Perfect. They all met in
Exactly.
college. I hate to use, crazy people as an example, but they're a really good one. They all met in college.
Right.
And were pursuing degrees while they were filming Dude Perfect, while they very first started.
They were being dumb, just
They
trying
were
to see.
legit just being stupid.
Yeah.
Well, one of them I know has a communications degree.
Yes.
And then Tyler I know has a wildlife degree. He's going to go be a park ranger, he said?
Anything in that
something to be outside.
demographic, yeah.
And
Game warden, whatever.
I don't think any of them are using the degree that they went in for. I know one of them was an English major, I think. And I mean, where is English in throwing a basketball at their hoop? I mean, granted, they do more than that now. But, they went out on a limb and it succeeded. It could have failed and they could have been right back to the start.
And how many times did they fail?
Yeah.
Well, I know we watched that documentary and they were just about ready to fold the doors, but it all ties into one thing. They were operating in their calling.
Yes.
They are very big Christians. They're very, outspoken in their beliefs and they pray and legit are seeking God. And, to me, that's what it boils down to in anything is we were created by a just I don't know the word to use here. I mean, we cannot fathom the size that God is and the amount of influence that he has on our lives. He's never given the full credit. But we do not operate in that. We don't trust in him. We don't seek him. We don't we're looking to going out and fixing everything ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think that was a huge part of you and I, even when we didn't know it, God was interceding. Like, we weren't in our walk, we weren't in our right situation at the time to really do these kids justice, but God had us no matter what. Even in our shortcomings, He had us and gave us this nudge to try something different with these kids and use them as an example to show the world. Like the Bible said, He uses the foolish things of this world to confound the wise. I think that was a huge part of this whole journey up to this point, was letting these kids be who God created them to be.
Yeah. And that's what I was getting to earlier. Like, I'm on the other side of my degree now.
Right.
And everybody says, how are you doing it? You're not nursing anymore. That's
You get asked that a
everybody's
lot.
first question. And I'm like, I'm doing better now, far better now than I ever did working as a nurse.
Yeah.
Mentally, for one. Even when I got out of nursing, I knew it was time to step out of nursing. I think I was burned out, but it was more than that. I think I just knew it was time for a change. I still had to go somewhere where I was still making an income.
Yeah.
I never could let that go. I was like, if you're going to step out of your degree, then you need to go do something and that wasn't where He was calling me to be, and that exploded, and I know that now, looking back. One of my many faults is staying in a season too long, or not fully trusting His process. He told me to quit nursing, and I did, but I took it to another step. Like, I had to do something else. And so then when that was taken from me, it was like I truly had to trust Him and step into my calling, out of my comfort zone, out of my weekly paycheck, which wasn't much. But now, God has stepped in, and it's like when you're operating in your calling, your whole surrounding changes.
Yeah.
The peace that was not in this house when we were outside of our calling, this house was just in disarray. I'll just be honest. We were losing our family because I was too hard-headed to step out on faith and step into my calling and my purpose, because I didn't think I could do it. I didn't think that's what I was called to do. And it wasn't that, it was just a security blanket. When you're getting a solid income, it's a security blanket. And so when you step out in that faith, and like you're doing, with not doing the normal, not going to college, starting 2 businesses from the ground up, with zero help from us, zero financial backing, He has just provided in our callings, and people don't understand that.
No, not
And
at all.
you sound like a lunatic when you start to speak about it. You sound like a crazy mad person. And they look at you like that, and you're just like...
I have no answers for
And
you.
they always ask Braylee, oh, why are you not going to school? And she's like, oh my gosh, and she's excited because she's mastering a photography business. She's mastering this safe haven, and things are really going good in her world. Mm-hmm. And then you go to tell somebody, and they're like, okay, but you're not X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
And automatically you just see her face fall. And then I try to come in, and I'm like, she's doing great, she's excelling, and they're like, well, you're not doing anything either. And I'm like, people just don't get it.
Yeah.
Well, you look back when we was on the road.
Yeah.
Truly on the road for those 11 months. Granted, we were not operating in God's complete wheel, I will say.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was a lot of personal driving points in that whole time.
Right.
The amount of people we got messaging us, it's so neat what you're doing, I'm jealous, how are y'all doing this, this, that, and the other. That was a humongous time of awareness for me after the fact. You're talking about on the backside. Here we are, what are we talking, close to 4 years now from when that was?
Mm-hmm.
I'm on the backside of that, kind of like you are and what you're talking about. And I'm looking at things, and I'm not only seeing what I could do, but could have done better, you know, and really use God as a witness for those people, but understanding something that I never got then was, even though we weren't doing exactly what we could have been doing, we were still in God's plan, scheme, whatever you want to call it, of things, because the amount of people that could not understand how we were getting to do that. Because, I mean, folks, we're talking about, we've been to Idaho hunting elk and all the places in between. Been to New Mexico, which is not far from here, so not that big a deal. But then we spent all that time in the Midwest, you know, up through Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota. We were in Medicine Bow National Forest almost every weekend to every other weekend, camping out, living with elk or moose. You know what I mean? Literally filming. I mean, there's
Got pictures.
tons of pictures of us living amongst moose, all the way through Louisiana, the South, up into, you know, Pennsylvania, all the stuff in between, the swamps, you name it. Virginia, Tennessee, Kentucky, all up into there.
Kentucky's a trip.
And everybody's wondering, why in the world are these guys getting to do that and I'm stuck at this mundane job? Nobody is going to get it. And it's the same thing in their life if they would just apply it. And that was kind of my, you know, response was, you're going to have to give up some things that bring you comfort in order to get to where you want to get to.
Yeah.
And I'm not even bringing God into this for a few minutes. Like, let's just get in the natural.
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted to do what we do, and this is what I told him, you're going to have to give up that $800 pickup, $900 Tahoe, and, you know, $2,500 a month house. You're going to have to back up and figure out what's more important. And then you bring God into it, and you're really going to have to put things in a perspective, because he's going to ask you to do things, give up things, you know, that you would never, ever think about doing. We've found that out, and especially on the backside of things, I look and I'm like, we really didn't give up anything. We just weren't living in the normal boundaries of society.
We weren't fulfilling the stereotype.
Exactly. That's it. And so, with that being said, you talking about starting 2 businesses from the ground up with no help. What are your plans moving forward from present day that are stirring in you? Like, what do you see that you need to work on, or maybe some areas that you feel like you've got pretty well nailed down and they're working and you're going to keep on? Like, what are your insights to some of that?
Nailed down, I know I've got, you know, the whole photo thing down.
Okay.
Photography's something that's really grown, and I've, like, portraits. I went and did 2 girls' sessions over the weekend, and they were completely different sessions.
Right.
I love that aspect. I hate it when photographers are like, okay, we're going to use these 3 same poses every single shoot.
Same backdrops.
Same backdrops, same everything, and I hate that. Every person's different, and every person has a different personality.
Yeah.
And you really want to capture those in those photos, because that's what's going to get them to love those. Both girls ended up loving their photos because they're them.
Right.
That one girl I did, she just kept saying, "This is so me. This is me."
Yeah.
And that's the biggest compliment I can receive as a photographer. That's good. Social media, I definitely don't think I have down. Website.
It changes too much.
It changes so
Oh my
much.
gosh.
Like, one day I get like 30 likes on something,
Yeah.
and then the other, it's like 5. And those are just the people who follow me.
I guess that was the thing that bothered me so much, and why I was so excited about the podcast, was that, you know, trying to keep up with the, what do they call it?
Views, numbers, statistics,
Algorithm, there you
Yeah.
go. That's the word I'm
We'll
looking
get there
for.
one day.
You know, trying to keep up with that, and the best times to post, I'm like,
It's
I'm a loose cannon. I'm gonna share whatever pops in my head at that moment. I'm not gonna. Oh, I can't share this till 7 o'clock tonight because it's the hot time, and I'm like, I don't know, whatever.
And since TikTok has come along, like Instagram has gone to videos.
Yeah.
And I hate it. I really don't like it. Like, I understand a video platform, but Instagram wasn't made for that, and it's just taken away. And I think that's why a lot of people are probably like, well, she hasn't posted. Well, have you really noticed? Like, it really hasn't made a difference on my end. Like, I get more views on, like, my stories and stuff than I do a post. And so I'm just like...
The reels and the stories seem to get more attention.
And so I'm just like, I'm not going to
have to come in on TikTok or Instagram.
Exactly.
That was my joy in Instagram. It was just pictures.
Mm-hmm.
If I wanted to go on TikTok and watch funny videos, I can do that. But I went to Instagram to just look at pictures. That's my thing. And they've TikToked my Instagram.
Gluttony.
Yeah. It's
become gluttonous. Like everybody wants a piece of the pie.
Yes.
And they want to get it as quick as they can, as much as they can.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, starting up YouTube is crazy for me because I've never been one that idolizes YouTubers. But at the same time, I think it would be a lot of fun. Like, I enjoy the producer work with you guys. Like, I love going and editing photos. I've loved going and, like, helping with y'all's videos. I like talking and all of that stuff. So I think it'll be good. It's scary, and I'm trying to get over... Right now, my biggest thing is laziness. Because it's hard for me to make myself get up and go do stuff when it's just for me.
Yeah.
When I have a photo shoot, if I have a 6 a.m. photo shoot, I'm going to be there at 5:30.
I know.
But, like, when it's just me and myself, I'm like, well, I can sleep till 11 and be fine. And I really need to get over that because it plays with my mental health a lot. And I feel like it gets in the way of what God's pushing me to do.
Yeah.
Because you can't be lazy with God.
No.
You just can't. And it's hard finding that balance because, like, I want a good home life and I want time with you guys and boys, which is another thing people call me crazy for, is why I'm spending so much time with my family. Like, it's all I've ever known.
We're a tight-knit group, guys. We traveled for 11 months straight, minus a week or two.
Yeah.
I know one time we pulled off to switch clothing because we were going from a spring type early fall into like a winterous type setting. And then the other time y'all had a deal called Coda's Camp that y'all came in for a week. We grabbed your mom and took her back up there with us. And so other than that, we were together 24/7 for about 11 months straight, minus those probably 2 weeks in there. And I mean, 2 weeks is generous, very generous, because I mean, Coda's Camp wasn't that long, but just the end, the transition, the reload, the repack, grab an extra vehicle roll kind of thing. It was, I mean, but I mean, we're just a tight knit family. That's the way we operate.
I love it that way, honestly. I wouldn't have it any other way because I see so many other people who aren't close with their family and how it plays into them. But like I said earlier, it's hard finding that balance of, yes, I need to get work done, but I also want free time because I don't want to be like a college kid who's just constantly swamped all the time. And so I'm trying to find that balance, and again, just getting over the bout of laziness, because then I'm on myself for being lazy. I'm like, well, you could have 4 million followers if you would just get up in the morning and make your content. That's honestly where I'm at. So it's a constant battle, and it always will be, because later on it'll be, bringing a boyfriend into it and making sure that I have enough time for him, and then later on, if I get married, having kids into the mix. Like, it's always going to be something, and I can either use it as an excuse, or I can make a way and church my way through and fight for what is planned out for me.
Balance is not a thing. I think that's a false hope.
I agree.
That's fair.
Monty told us marriage is not 50-50. It's 100% on both. That has stuck with me even to this day.
Yeah.
And it applies, even in our business endeavors.
Balance is a false hope. And I think so many women, Instagrammers, whatever, influencers, whatever you are, promote this balance. And it's just a false hope. There will never be 2 days that look the same. you're always going to miss the mark on something. When you become a wife, you're going to miss the mark with your husband, and then you add kids to the scheme, and you're going to miss your mark on one or the other. And you know, if you have a job when you're raising your family, like, you're going to miss the mark. There is no such thing as balance. You just go in every day and just do the very best you can. And some days you get 80%, and some days you just fall below that 80% mark, and, and it's okay. And you just have to have grace for yourself in that.
Yeah.
I will say, from a mother's perspective, and just watching you grow, you know, you've always been a hard worker, and you know, you had your first job, and then you had your second job, and then you started a third job, and we won't go into specifics on any of those, but seeing you lay down the chasing the money aspect of it, because that's the only reason.
That's the only
wanted
reason I
a
had
job.
those 3 jobs.
You know, you were chasing money because you wanted to go do, and you wanted to do things.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's clarify.
Yes.
Yeah, because it wasn't just a money hungry thing. It was, she knew that there was things she wanted, and she knew it was going to take money to get it.
Right.
Yeah. Like I wanted new camera equipment.
Exactly.
Or I knew I needed extra cash, or I knew I wanted to go to this rodeo to photo shoot, and I was like, well, I have to pay my way for tickets and gas. So it was always that aspect of it. And whether it's for a good cause, like, oh yeah, I'm putting my money towards a good cause, I'm still chasing money.
Yes. And so to see you, I watched you through all 3 of those jobs, and I think you did them all with excellence. I think you did a great job at them.
Tried to.
But seeing you step out of that and truly stepping into your calling, into what he's doing in you, and watching him work through you, has truly been amazing to me.
Yeah.
It's made me proud as a dad. I mean, I know I wasn't the most reliable employee at first. I've been working legit since I was 12, and I know the kids are going to give me a hard time about this, but
every lecture.
We did. I know. I'm not even going to get into that. I'm not, because I'm not going to go there, but I know. But I mean, you got that same drive from me.
Yes.
Because I was kind of in the same boat that you're in.
Yes.
Mom and dad worked for what they had, and they didn't have a lot of extra. And so that extra had to come from somewhere.
Exactly.
And I don't think it's bad at all that you've got, you know, Johnny out there at 11 hoeing weeds. What's it going to hurt him?
Honestly.
But you don't see that anymore. But we were going to Lubbock the other day and ran across a field of them, and you know, that was a legit thing when I was growing up. We sprayed cotton and hoed weeds. And it's making me proud as a dad to see that same drive and ambition.
I wish I would have figured it out sooner, because I feel like in y'all's childhood, I always had to work. I always had to have more.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. To make ends meet and to have extra. Like you said, you know, we just didn't have extra.
Yeah.
And I always wanted more for y'all. And I missed a lot of your childhood through that money chasing.
Yeah.
And it's enlightening to see that you're truly chasing after what you want, and you're truly finding yourself.
Yeah.
I didn't know myself because I was in a relationship in high school. Right after that, you know, I was in a relationship with you again. And so I never knew myself. And so it's cool to see you finding yourself, setting your boundaries for what you will have, what you take, what you expect, before you go into that, I have to be this for so-and-so.
Right.
You don't. You're finding yourself and truly figuring out what you want in life, and just in Jennifer terms, like, you're just grabbing it by the balls and you're getting it. You know what I mean? You're going, and you're just, it's awesome to see. Just truly living out your passions and living out your dreams. And I know there's still stuff you want. I know there's still stuff you want to do.
Definitely.
But you're finding that through this way.
Yes.
And you're not doing it the way everybody has told you or encouraged you to do. And when those adversities do come in and those people do come in and it's like, oh my gosh, you're not letting that affect you.
Right.
It's
You
been
are
hard.
just, I know it hurts.
It
I know
sucks
you're
sometimes
just like,
because it's like the closest people to you are the ones saying those things,
Yep.
and I'm like,
Yeah.
but I thought you were here to support me.
yeah.
But
You'll find out in a hurry who's really in your
Yeah.
corner.
Yeah.
yes, definitely, y'all have talked about that a lot throughout my entire childhood. But I think one of the pivotal moments for me when I finally figured out life's too short and I need to be doing something I love. I was working my last job up until now when I've taken over my business, and it had been a crazy 3 weeks in that job. Like, it was nonstop busy, and I was just stressed out. I was tired. I had a photo shoot coming up. I had one for a girl that I had done previously and just got done working with again. She had booked one for me. And then I had a rodeo that next weekend, or that same weekend, excuse me. And so I just took the entire week off because I was like, I need to be able to edit my photos and do all this stuff and not be hounded. So I took the week off and I just did that all week. I did photography that entire week, and I was the happiest I had ever been. I told Mom in the car when we came back from the rodeo, I'm like, I can't go back to my job after this. I did go back to that job after that, and I hated it. Just absolutely loathed it. Like, everything I did was frustrating, and I wish I would have had a better mindset about it, but at the same time, when you get a taste of what your life could be like and those dreams being fulfilled, it's hard to go back to settling for money.
Yes.
Well, there's an old saying, and it really does apply, and it really applies in a godly sense. It's never used that way, but they always said, if you find what you love to do, you'll never work another day in your life. And it is true, because I truly believe that ties hand in hand in with God, because when you're operating in the very thing that He called you to do, what is your true purpose in ministry, not only are you going to never work another day in your life, but you're also going to be more happy, more relaxed. You're also going to be more fulfilled, because those dreams and those desires, as I shared in my blog, they're given to you by God. It's people that pervert that. It's mankind that alters that. So, really and truthfully, you're like, well, I like to drink beer and fish. Okay, some of that is man-made. Some of that is God ordained. And it's, you got to weave through and figure out, do you really like the drinking, or do you really like the fishing? Because so many times people have to put those two together, and when you peel away all the different layers and get all the junk out of the way, you're like, you know what? I really love to fish. It's even more fun, sober. I, for one, have found that out a lot in my personal walk. The alcohol was just a perverted way of doing what I wanted to do. Now that all that's gone and I'm really operating in God's purpose for my life, I'm 10 times more happier than I ever was in my drunkest state. You know what I mean? And so I think that's a lot of it. What you're figuring out too is, I'm operating in my calling, in my ministry.
Yeah.
Because people don't think photography could be a ministry, but oh my gosh, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, it's anything that you are doing, if you're doing it as unto God, it's a ministry.
Oh, absolutely.
Whether you use a lick of scripture or whether you don't.
Yeah.
And most of the time, you never have to use scripture. People are going to see the God in you, and they're going to want to follow you. They're going to want to pursue life in the way that you're pursuing it. That's a ministry. When you're helping them break bondage, when you're helping them break from the grasp that society can get on us in a negative sense, that's a ministry.
Well, that's the thing that's been hard too, figuring out, is for so long it's just been Mesquite and Heels, and I've loved having that one platform because it's simple. But then I go and see all of these other Instagrammers, I'm like, well, I don't know if that's what led me to Safe Haven or not. I've been really struggling with that here recently. Honestly, Safe Haven has been a struggle for me. I don't know why. It's just been hard. Because you see all of these others' Instagrams, and it's full of these little cute sayings and scriptures and what have you nots, and it's just this basic it goes into a pattern. And I've never truly wanted just that basic ministry.
Yeah.
But I also never thought that Mesquite and Heels could be a ministry in and of itself either. But I'm like, I feel that it can be, because I get more help seeing people really walk through their faith and not just throwing scripture at me 24/7 and be
Right.
like, do it this way, and just walking through life and
Right.
still praising Jesus through it all. So I'm like, if I continue to do that, I feel like it can still reach people.
Absolutely.
Which I think is what led me to put the YouTube under Mesquite and Heels rather than under the Safe Haven perspective. Because I didn't want to be limited to just talking about, you know, the scriptures and going into details. I want to have a nook for that. I want that to be incorporated, but I don't want that to just be the basis. Because if you're like me, when I'm going through a hard time, it's hard to see people, you know, throwing scripture at you and being like, well, if you're depressed, get into your word, do this and this and this, and you'll be fine, when that doesn't always necessarily work.
And I think, too, we probably need to have another podcast episode.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think people truly realize what you've been through.
Yeah.
What we've been through as a family, what you've seen, what you've dealt with. I don't think people realize that, and so you come across as a teenage child or young adult, I guess, and they're like, she doesn't know.
Yeah.
How does she know what depression looks like? How does she know what, you know, family life looks like? How does she know what addiction looks like? I think so many times people assume that.
Yes.
And so I do think when you bring God into it, they're like, she doesn't know. She has no life experience.
Yeah.
And that's just not true.
Well,
You do have a lot that you've been through,
Yeah.
that you've had to work through, that you've had to go through. You've dealt with a bout of depression. You've
Yes.
dealt with some things that not everybody your age has had to deal with.
Yeah.
And we've dealt with things as a family that, you know, a lot of people haven't had to deal with. And so just being you and being original, like in Mesquite and Hills.
Mhm.
Yes, Safe Haven sounds great. It sounds amazing. And it's going to do amazing things. But it doesn't have to have a ministry name to it to really reach the people that you're trying to reach.
Yeah.
People are not knocking down the doors to get into a church with people that haven't been through some things, or people haven't, you know, walked through those valleys that we walked through. People aren't beating down those doors.
Yeah.
They want somebody that's real and honest, and life sucks sometimes, you know. I'm that way. I don't want to, when I'm in the valley, hear how wonderful
Yeah.
your life is and how God healed you instantly from addiction.
Yeah.
That's not how he worked in us. That's
No.
not how it worked in our family.
It was
And
a long, hard road.
I wanted somebody at that time to say, this is going to suck
Yep.
for a little bit. Okay,
These
you're
are
on,
going to be some hard years.
Yes.
you're on the right path.
Yeah.
You know, like alcohol's not a problem anymore, but that does not cure everything.
No.
These next few years are going to be some of the hardest that you've been through.
Yeah.
And I think we should probably do an episode just on that specifically.
Yeah.
But going back into what you were saying about the Safe Haven being a struggle for you, just go, be you.
Mhm.
Be who you are. I think that's why Sadie Robertson has reached so many
Yeah.
people. Of course, she had some help with a TV show.
And people knew who she
And
was.
She was. But she's been through some things.
Mhm.
You know, she talks openly about what she's been through and how she dealt with it. But in the same boat, they need to see real people with real struggles and how they really came out of it. Because it wasn't like we opened our Bible one day and
Everything was magically cured.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that. And I think people get that misconception so many times.
Yes.
Well, nothing bugged me anymore in my young walk. Going to Monty's, you'd walk in the door and there would be certain lead people like ushers or whatever Monty called them. They weren't deacons because that wasn't in the forum, but he'd be like, hey, you know, so-and-so, how are you doing? Oh, I'm blessed and highly favored. Like, why can't you just tell me, hey, I'm good, or hey, I'm doing better today? Like, that reality was sometimes taken out of it.
Yes.
and we had to put on this front. And I think I know I struggled with that, trying to create where we are today, because I saw others and what was being successful to them and tried to mock it or tried to go along with it. And I agree with Mom, like, just be yourself. Take the godliness out of things to be godly.
I think my biggest thing is I'm just trying to be the person that I needed when I was walking through that valley.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good place for you to be, and I think you've been that. I'm not saying change anything. I think you've really been that. But like, as far as you being on the fence about this safe haven, like, go be that person you needed when you were at the lowest of lows, and people were throwing scripture at you and telling you it was going to be all right. It might not be all right. It's not all right now. I'm not okay. And just be who you needed to be. Some famous person, I don't know, don't quote me, some famous person said that. Go be the adult that you needed as a kid,
That's
as
awesome.
a child, you know. Go be that. And be true to yourself as far as that goes.
I was reading a deal the other day, and I know you're probably going to struggle to get what I'm saying, but I'll do my best to explain it. I was reading a deal the other day on Donnie Vincent. He got asked if he had a logo. He's never had a logo. He's been doing this for a long, long time. Never had any logo, merchandise, never anything like that. They finally talked him into it. And his explanation behind it was kind of intriguing to me, because he gave what he called it. But the guy that was creating it is this brilliant designer, logo, type person that does this for a lot of people. And he's like, well, we try not to say what it is. We let the person interpret what it is, and blah, blah, blah. And he gave this big deal. And so what I'm trying to get at in that is, don't worry so much about what your name stands for. People are going to see that in you. People are going to see that as you walk. It could be called, dirt and rocks. For you know what I mean?
Yes.
But like, it's not in the name so much as it is in what you're about.
Yeah.
And we've always tried to teach all that in a way, I think, growing up. But I think it's even more crucial now for you guys as you're getting older and starting to, have peers around you that, life's beginning to change. Things are beginning to matter. What you do now isn't just, they're just being a kid. They're a little older now.
Yeah.
It's mattering, or starting to matter. One of those TJ words, mattering. I don't know if that's even there, but hey, I get accused of that all the time. But,
Here's my English teacher, guys. Ooh.
Yeah. And so, if it's a struggle, if it's something that's been difficult, lay it down. I know we completely walked away from Quint T Outdoors for, about 3 years.
Yeah.
We just set it aside. It wasn't, we didn't still live that way. It's not that we still didn't do those things. It kind of became about a logo for so long. And when we just backed away from it, God's kind of taken it and, remorphed it into whatever it's becoming now, and it's better than it ever was, because we just quit worrying about certain things, and we took the time to back up and focus, really inward focus on ourselves, inward focus on who we were in this with God. And it was hard.
Yes.
Probably the hardest walk I have ever been through, even harder than alcoholism. To me, was the last couple of months when we were trying to weed out all the garbage and get down to the core of who we were, what we were about. Like you said, nobody's beating down the doors. I mean, we've seen countless churches that are just empty on Sunday. So there's a need for something else. And by you kind of doing what we were talking about, I think you're going to see God use everything you do. when you're all about his business.
And two, remember, there's good ideas and there's God ideas, and we have a lot of both. But if the devil can't distract you from your calling, he will make you busy.
Yeah.
And I've fallen into that rut like this past week, trying to get everything promoted and trying to get everything out there, that he's kept me so busy that I've almost lost my focus for why am I doing this?
Right.
So that may be, something you just have to cut back on because it's making you too busy to truly figure out and remember where God's trying to take you in it.
Yes, that's fair. I think whatever happens, wherever it ends up, it's going to be good.
Oh,
it is.
For all of us.
Things, yeah, for sure.
And I've definitely enjoyed sitting down with us today.
Yeah, it's been a good day.
I think this is the longest we've ever gone
I think
on.
so too.
No, I think it's great, and we'll keep going if y'all have got more to discuss. I think
I've gotten everything, unless y'all have more questions.
I think we have another couple of episodes to do.
I'm great with that.
Yeah.
We can totally do it.
I think those are definitely to come. I think those are going to be some real raw, emotional episodes.
Well, that's why we wanted to do this.
Yeah.
I was tired of being held down with boundaries and rules, and I wanted to get stuff out there, and that's the whole focus in our ministry. I think as a family behind the whole Quint T, the five of us, is because there's so much I feel like we can do good in the world from our shortcomings, from our bad decisions, good decisions. I'm not thinking that we're greater than anybody else, but I think we've got a testimony that only we have.
Yes.
And that's what I think will help, you, our listeners out there, and even the people watching us on YouTube. Hopefully, prayerfully, God is using what we've been through to glorify Him and to help y'all become, where y'all need to be in your calling and your purpose.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot more episodes to come, especially how we let bitterness affect our calling.
Yeah.
Yep.
And how it set us back. And there's just a lot that I think we need to get into and go into, but I think it needs to be broken up because it's a lot, I think.
Yes.
Well, the main reason today was to kind of get you on here and discuss your viewpoints behind did we screw up your life or not?
A little, but it's fine. No.
She's fine.
She's still breathing.
No. I think, in all honesty, with everything that I've seen, and not to compare, but it could have been a lot worse. I mean, seeing the roads that we could have traveled and seeing the things that might have become of my life and the stereotype that I could be living in, it could be 10 times worse. We've all had our mess ups. We've had our bad days. There are days when we do yell and scream at each other. But we get over it and we're fine. Every family goes through that, and no family's perfect, no matter what image they try and present. But all in all, I feel like we've done pretty decent with what we've got.
Could have been worse.
Exactly.
It
It can always be worse, guys.
True story. True story.
Well, at the end of the day, we all do the very best that we can. We all give the most effort that we can at the moment. We look back and think, well, I could have given more. I ran across a deal, and I'm probably going to mess this up, so I'll try to get it right. It was a football coach for a college, and I won't say the name just in case it gets us in trouble, but he was saying, true champions don't ever quit.
Yeah.
They give it everything that they have and look to see where they can improve.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lazy people look at any situation and think, what do people think? Have I given enough?
Mm-hmm.
But that true champion drive is, I'm going to give you everything that I have and still look to see where I can improve.
Right. Yep.
And that's not exactly how he said it, but I didn't want to get into copyright issues and things like that. But it is true. And I think as long as we keep giving it 110, 120% every day and still look to improve, I think we're going to be fine in this world.
Yes.
With our personal walk, with our walk with God, with our businesses, with our spouses with our kids, I don't think that is a recipe of disaster. I think that's a recipe of success.
Yeah.
Agreed.
No, I agree with that 100%.
So I am enjoying these. I can't get enough of these podcasts.
Agreed.
I hope you, our listeners out there, feel the same. And by the numbers that have been showing up, I'm ecstatic. I mean, we're not in the billions, but hey, I'm happy that anybody's taking the time to listen to them. So if that's you, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
We can't thank you enough for allowing us into your homes and lives, and I hope we're making a difference. We enjoy your feedback. You can always reach out to us at quinttministries@gmail.com. We're still on our social media handles under Facebook, Instagram. Email us, call us, whatever.
It's on the website as well for contact, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, it's on
there's
there.
a little
It's
entry form.
So
You don't have to put every single detail in there.
Yeah.
I
Right.
don't think
No.
if you just want to do your email, that's acceptable.
Perfect.
yes, we'll
So-
get back to you for sure.
And stay tuned to our social media sites as we'll get into what's coming up for Monday.
Yeah.
We may dive deeper into this discussion with Braylee. It may be something completely different. Don't know.
Who knows?
Never know.
And always watch for little lives as we pop those in wherever.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we appreciate it, guys, and we love you. And we look to see you down the road.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.